to the cinema tonight, and I've literally an hour ago got back, and I went to see the new Don't Breathe movie. So Don't Breathe 2, the sort of quite long-awaited sequel from the 2016 film, which Rachel hasn't seen, because I did ask her before, so I guess this is me going it alone. But we'll obviously circle back, and we'll do the Don't Breathe movies, both of them, at a different time. So with this second one, I'm just going to give you a non-spoiler general summing up of my life. Before seeing the first one, the whole premise was that you had this group of characters who break in house. Obviously, they're to steal things, but then you have this old war veteran who lives there, who the twist is that he can't see, so that's kind of the dynamic where he has to use his other instincts to defend himself. And that's just the whole premise of the film, really. It's all set in the one house, or most of it anyway, and it's about the back and forth between him and the other characters who break in. And I think what was quite unique about it is then it did sort of twist your feelings on the characters, like expectations, because at the start of the film, I think you were naturally quite sympathetic, obviously because of this situation. I mean, when you find out he's blind, but also because they're basically breaking into his house. So in some ways, they're seen as the villains, although they're the characters you spend most time with. But obviously it's set up where initially he's like the more sympathetic character, but then it does twist that around on you later because of the way he fights back, but also he becomes like a more kind of sinister character later, without going into spoilers for that first film. And so it was by Freddy Alvarez, who people also know from, he did the Evil Dead remake, however you want to describe it, which I think was his first film. And it was a good film, the first day. I liked it a fair bit. It was very claustrophobic. It was really well done and sort of grueling. And you had good characters. You had Jane Levi was in it as one of the main people who break in, and it was a good premise and it was well done. I think it lost its way a little bit at the end just because it sort of went a bit torture porn, and it just felt like it was doing it for the sake of doing it.
For the sake of it, yeah.
The end, rather than it justified, or it was that kind of film anyway. It just felt like maybe it came a bit out of nowhere. Elvis did a good job generally, and there were characters to get invested in and stuff like that. So apart from maybe losing it a bit at the end, generally I liked it, and obviously it's a film we'll revisit. So now with this sequel, we're a few years on, and Freddy Alvarez, he doesn't direct this one. He writes it, or he co-writes it with the director. And the director, who's this is his first film, Rodo Salagis. I'll just say I've probably butchered that, but he actually co-wrote the original film, so he's now directing.
Oh, okay.
And obviously Freddy Alvarez, as I said, is co-write. So in a way, it's very much their baby in a way. This sort of franchise, but obviously, I think Freddy Alvarez is having a fair bit of success, so I think he's obviously a bit more busy with other projects, so that's probably why it's a different director. Bring back the war veteran, the Norman character from the first film, played by Stephen Lang. So he's the only returning character, and the setup is then he's taken in this orphan girl who lost her mother in a house fire, and that's what he tells her, but also he claims to be her father because she was too young, she doesn't know any different, so he's sort of raising her essentially. And then kind of the events and the past of his time at war and the previous film kind of comes back to haunt him and become the aggressors sort of thing. They go after them. they tried to like kidnap the girl, and that's to do. There's a link to the past and stuff, so there's sort of couple of twists, and so that's the basic premise. So they've kind of turned it all around, where he now has become, in a way, the main character. This Norman character, and it's not very good. It's really rough. I mean, first of all, it sort of has these ideas and these themes because it tries to explore, I think, his sort of dark past and some of the stuff it does. Because there's this sense throughout the film, as he's raising the girl, then he's very cautious around her, and he's very cautious, don't grow up like me, or just the sense that he regrets his past and some of the stuff he did at war, and maybe in the first film. But I mean, I think that's one of the themes they're trying to play with, this idea of like regretting your past as a veteran and stuff. But the film never really gives it enough time to really do anything. There's one or two themes like that are sort of hinted at, but it never gives it enough time. And I mean, first of all, I think there's a little bit of a problem because Norman's quite a murky character anyway because of the first film. So if he then becomes kind of the protagonist, I mean, he's a good character and I like the actor bringing him back, but there's that. And then you have the problem of just bringing in this other character, this orphan girl who we have no attachment to. We don't really know her. And the problem with this film partly is that it just rushes through stuff. It just really escalates very fast. So we don't really get any time with this young girl. So we barely get to know her. There's a couple of quite like melodramatic sort of like, there's a flashback scene at one point, or a scene where she's like remembering stuff, and that's all quite, you know, sort of a little bit on the cheesy side. And there are some cheesy lines and some cheesy moments in the film. But then the problem is, as it escalates, it really doesn't feel like a Don't Breathe movie, or if it does, it does just because it's a rehash of the first film, but just not as good. And I think the problem is that the director just isn't up to it. I mean, we talked the other week about, you know, The Conjuring 3, that third movie, then probably the director just wasn't up to doing it. Doing horror. It takes a certain, you know, hand, a certain technique, and I don't think this director was up to it. So I think that's part of the problem. And it felt also like it just became this really sort of bland action style movie at times, where it sort of felt like the Norman character almost became like a Charles Bronson style character. And like, in a way, if they wanted to do it as an action movie, like as a sequel, I don't even mind that so much. It's just that it wasn't a very good one. Because most of the characters were like really bland and forgettable. I think that's another issue, because the gang they bring in who are meant to be like the threat and stuff, they didn't feel threatening in the slightest, and they were just had no personality really, the gang, and the characters in general, outside of maybe the main guy. As I said, the girl you didn't get a lot of time with, or you didn't get a lot of time with her backstory, so it's kind of hard to. The actress was fine, but it was kind of hard to care about her. So I think the problem is that they don't do the Don't Breathe stuff very well. It doesn't feel like a successful Don't Breathe movie. But then the other stuff is when because it does go different places, this film, in like the second half. But even when it does that stuff, it's not very good at that stuff. It's not very good at doing characters and story. I mean, it just goes to some ridiculous places and there's some like really bad and hammy acting. And yeah, trust me, when you see where the second half of the film goes, you'll just be livid. But it's Yeah, they kind of shit the bed, really.
Oh,
You know,
it's interesting because I've heard of the films, but I've never heard of the premise. And the way you described the premise of the first movie, it reminds me a little bit of Did you see Hush? When Hush came
yeah,
out, 5, 6, yeah, it reminds me of
it's
that
good.
premise, except he's blind and not deaf. And
Yeah,
Hush was such a great movie, and it was such a
I,
great premise to work around someone who doesn't have, one of the main senses. So definitely sounds like an
yeah,
interesting premise. So we'll definitely have to watch both of them and do a video on the movie and its sequel somewhere down the track, I think, so that I can have a watch of them and you can
definitely.
revisit them and see if your feelings change about the sequel at all, maybe with some time passing or
Yeah.
something like that. You never know. But yeah,
But
that'll
yeah,
definitely be an interesting one to do.
yeah. Definitely, yeah, but for now, thumbs down. I can't give it a reckon today. Unfortunately, I think if you like the first film, you're not gonna.
You're not
I
going to like the
think
second one?
no, it definitely loses what was good.
Ah, that's a pity.
I mean, I can't totally absorb Alves of blame because I think at times his script is quite bad as well. I think
Mm-hmm.
so. Maybe it's a sign he's a better director than writer, but
Then a script
also,
writer, yeah.
but a lot of it is down to the direction because the scenes just aren't as suspenseful or as sort
Yeah.
of on the edge sort of thing. But yeah, so. No, I can't recommend it. Sorry.
Oh, fair enough. Not
Okay,
every sequel is successful.
as we'll find.